Huge news, folks, and it's been buried as far as I can tell. An NBC News poll that just broke shows the Republicans are way ahead of the Democrats as I read it on the key issues. This is contrary to a lot of the headlines you'll be seeing out there. So I want to talk about the importance of not being duped by polls, and we're going to talk about that for a few minutes because not only should you not be duped, you should also be happy with the trend that things are going. That doesn't mean you should be complacent, but it means you should be cautiously optimistic of where things are going. I'll give you the data in just one moment. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, best-selling author, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and proud American gun owner. If you have not subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner Second Amendment channel, please do so and show your love for the right to keep and bear arms. And please follow us on Twitter and other social media outlets because we're trying to spread the word of this channel. Okay, folks, I just want to talk for a couple minutes about polling. Because the midterm election is coming up in November, you're going to see a lot of news stories about polls and polling, and I want to make sure that you don't get duped or seduced by them and take away the wrong information. And then I want to talk to you about some breaking great news as I see it for Republicans as what's about to happen in the midterm election based on none other than the data compiled by NBC News. Not exactly members of the vast right-wing conspiracy as I see it. So before we begin, for a few things to think about polls generally, these political polls you're going to be reading, okay? The first thing to understand is many of the polls that you're going to be seeing reported on in the media is actually not trying to get an accurate snapshot of what's going on in American life. That's my opinion. My opinion is a lot of these polls are going to be designed to discourage Republicans, to discourage conservatives, to discourage gun owners from being active this fall. They're going to try to discourage you from voting. They're going to try to discourage you from donating to candidates. They're going to try to discourage you from being actively involved. They're going to try to depress you so that you don't show up and vote and support, pro-gun Republican conservative candidates. This is not a bug. In my view, this is a feature of a lot of these polls to basically persuade you that Republicans cannot win in Georgia. They can't win in Arizona. They can't win in Ohio, all of which, in my view, is utter and complete nonsense. Mind you that I was a media surrogate for President Trump in the 2016 election, and I was on his presidential transition team in 2016, and I lived through this exact phenomenon where everyone said we could not win that election in 2016, and of course, we did. I remember on the morning of the 2016 election, people saying there was like an 80% or 75% chance that Trump was going to lose, and of course, we know that Donald Trump won. Now, that doesn't mean I want you to get complacent and think things always work in our favor. It doesn't, but I want you to understand that the pollsters often either try to get it wrong on purpose, as I see it, or number two, just get it wrong because they're not very good because they can't get the right data. Okay, so that's the first thing. Often the polls are designed to dissuade you from voting. If you're conservative, if you're a Republican, they're designed to alter public perception and not to measure it. That's the first point. The second point is keep in mind that when it comes to getting people on the phone, if you talk to anyone that's worked in polling, it literally often takes them to call, dozens, if not hundreds of people to get one respondent to answer their questions. So how accurate and representative and typical is that person they're getting on the phone that really is going to represent a large slice of American life? Because if you think about it just commonsensically, we have a country here of over 300 million Americans, 300 million people. And yet, if you look at the number of people polled, it's often 1,000 people, maybe 2,000 people. So that means every person is really representing, thousands, if not millions of people by virtue of their answer because of the breakdown of all this stuff. So the reality is these are small sample sets, small sample sizes, no matter how you slice it. And I would add, this is key. There's three things I've always said in the media that people will never admit to publicly. One is they own guns. Two is they own gold, and three is they support Donald Trump. Those are the three things that people will not tell strangers on the phone or otherwise. They own gold, they own guns, they support Donald Trump. They're just not going to do it for many reasons. One of which is they may not want to be judged because they don't want to get harassed by the neighbors as not being politically correct or woke or whatever it is. Second of is maybe they don't want to have their people come in and break into their homes and steal stuff. And third is, I think a lot of people really do hate the media. And if somebody from the media gets them on the phone, I think a lot of people, especially on the conservative side of things, may even be willing to lie and mislead the media because they really dislike them. That's my speculation, but I think it's a reasonably good speculation as far as I can tell, because every time I look at the polls before an election versus what happens after election, it always seems to me that the Republican, the conservative, the gun rights group, whatever it is that's at stake, always seems to do 3, 4, 5 percentage points better in the actual outcome of an election than they do in the polling beforehand. That's kind of my back of the napkin math, and that's what I've seen over and over and over again. Now, let's turn, though, to the breaking news, to the NBC poll. So NBC did this major poll. I know I've just criticized polls, but again, if anything, they tend to skew to the left, so bear that in mind. So this major NBC poll, again, NBC is not, I would say, friendly to the gun rights movement, not friendly to conservatives as a general matter. That's my opinion. Here you have the NBC headline. It goes like this. The poll, abortion and Trump boost the midterm prospects for Democrats. Democrats have polled even with Republicans ahead of the November midterm elections. On and on and on. Sounds great, right? The Democrats are kicking butt. The Republicans are in big trouble. But is this true? Well, since you've got someone that will actually be geeky enough to read page 15, 16, and 17 of the poll, which I will link down below, let me tell you, you tell me, this data compiled by NBC sounds like this is good news for Democrats? Let me give it to you right here. So on the question, the specific issues that people are going to be voting on, here's what the poll showed. Dealing with immigration, party advantage, Republican plus 17. I repeat, Republicans have a 17-point advantage of these respondents of NBC on the issue of who's better at dealing with immigration. Huge advantage for the Republicans. Next issue, cost of living. Who is better positioned to deal with cost of living, Republicans or Democrats? The Republicans have a 14-point advantage, double digits. Protecting our constitutional rights, Republicans or Democrats? Republicans have a 9-point advantage over the Democrats in terms of protecting our constitutional rights according to the NBC poll. Being effective in getting things done, Republicans have a 6-point advantage over the Democrats. Dealing with border security, Republicans have a 36-point advantage. 36-point advantage. Dealing with crime, Republicans have a 23-point advantage over the Democrats when dealing with crime in America. Dealing with the economy, major issue, because we have major economic problems with inflation and all sorts of things. It's terrible out there. I can't believe the cost of living. I can't believe that we were energy independent and now we're literally going to the Middle East again begging for oil. Like, what the heck is wrong with us? That is crazy. Anyway, set that issue aside. Dealing with the economy, the Republicans have a 19-point advantage. 19-point advantage over the Democrats with dealing with the economy with an NBC poll. This is not Breitbart. We love Breitbart. This is not Fox News. This is nothing like that. This is a poll from NBC, right? Affiliated with MSNBC. And this is the kind of thing that their polling is showing that the advantages the Republicans have on the major issues that people are going to be voting on, including protecting constitutional rights, which is a 9-point advantage for the Republicans over the Democrats. So to summarize, just keep in mind when you see these polls, a lot of them that you're going to be reading about, I'm not saying the NBC poll specifically, but a lot of the polls that you're going to be seeing probably designed to sway you and not measure anything. They want to dissuade you from voting and participating this fall, not actually measuring what's going on. Number two is for the purposes of our side, which I would say the pro-gun side, generally the Republican side, generally the conservative side. I think there is a dramatic lessening of people willing to answer questions from the media on these polls. So you're going to get a distorted view in that way. And last but not least, the great news is even when the liberals, and I consider NBC part of sort of the liberal mainstream establishment as I see it, and even when they are doing, if you look hard at the data and not just their headlines as to how they construe it and report it, if you actually look at the hard data, which you can do down below, you'll see the Republicans look like they're doing very well. That doesn't mean they can't screw it up, because of course they can, but right now things are looking strong. So hopefully they remain optimistic and work hard and prevail so we don't lose our right to keep and bear arms in the midterm election. Because certainly if the Democrats control the White House and they get a major advantage in the United States Senate, get rid of the filibuster, plus they maintain the House, then they're going to do all sorts of crazy things like probably create new states and ban all sorts of guns and do all sorts of insane things. I don't think any of that's going to happen, by the way. But nevertheless, we always have to be vigilant. We got to be cautiously optimistic, but we have to be vigilant and always pay attention to what our anti-gun movements are doing in America, because they really do want to take our guns. Okay, hope you learned something here today at the Four Boxes Diner. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we'll see you again soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.